Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 170, which is called A New Rasengan. So yeah, another strong episode of Boruto. We've been on quite a good run here with this training arc, and it looks set to continue with some good setup from this episode for the next one. I think the only criticism I'd maybe have about this episode is that it's called A New Rasengan, and while yes, we sort of talked around a slightly different approach, and we sort of found out that, oh yeah, Boruto got it, but we haven't seen it yet. I wasn't the biggest fan of like the title of the episode being almost this title probably is meant for like the next episode where we're actually going to get to see the new Rasengan, and probably this episode would have been better titled after the Sasuke, Sakura, and Sarada side of the episode, which to me was probably the most like important section of this episode. But let's get into it. I suppose we'll start with the Boruto stuff. So Boruto meets up with Shikadai, who's just returned from his mission. Shikadai informs Boruto about the defeat to Deepa, that even Shinki was involved, and you know, he if not for him, they probably will be dead. But Shikadai is kind of like, I'm not going to help you train if you're only training for revenge. But after Boruto reveals, I suppose, his full motivation behind what he's doing, that it's not just about Deepa. Yes, Deepa is this catalyst for him to get stronger, but he knows he just in general needs to be stronger to be more useful, to be able to fight the level of villains they're going to be coming up against. And I think Shikadai shows that sort of like, you know, the reason why he's the tuning of the group, of like that. He was happy with Boruto's reasoning there. He's not out to just get stronger to specifically fight Deepa, and it's not going down a path of revenge. It's just he needs to improve, and Deepa was just that kind of wake-up call. And so, you know, Inashika Cho helps Boruto to train, but it's more or less just some conversations between Boruto and Shikadai in this side of the episode. Like, the little section with Inojin and Chocho, I don't really think added like too much to the episode. The main discussion once again seems to be about, okay, Kakashi said that unless you learn how to move mountains, basically, you can't improve the power of your jutsu. Then they discuss like, okay, Shikadai says, I think the direction you should take this to try and hurt Deepa is that if you can pinpoint target a specific spot, you should be able to break through, because no matter how durable whatever he's made of is, if you target a pinpoint spot hard enough, it will break eventually. And so they get into the idea of, you know, like, oh, like his skin is like diamonds. Like, what makes diamond different from coal? It's heat and pressure, and that's what makes it stronger. And Boruto figures out that, like, okay, I sort of need to do that with my Rasengan, and then off screen he incorporates this learning into his Rasengan, and Kakashi, who's been spying on this the whole time, realizes that Boruto has made this progress as well. He's managed to shatter through the entire boulder, and the preview for next week's episode seems to be the Rasengan looking more or less the same. But again, I don't know if they're just like saying something like, when he does the new Rasengan, it's going to start off looking like the Wind-style Rasengan and then transition into something different, because I doubt they'd really spoil anything about the new Rasengan before it gets revealed. So what exactly are they going to do here? Well, obviously with a Wind-style Rasengan, I suppose if he just increases the pressure, he can increase like how quick, I suppose, the Rasengan is spinning, which would increase its power. And especially if he does sort of compress a Wind-style Rasengan down, like he does it full power but then compresses it into something smaller, that increases the power just through, you know, pressure. That's one way to do it. That seems a little simplistic perhaps, if it is just that's what he's going to do based on the training, is just do Wind-style Rasengan but then compress it down, and that'll be the power. I thought they were kind of leaning in the direction of like, are they going to have him incorporate multiple chakra natures into it, but that seems maybe way too advanced. So I guess we're waiting to see what exactly they do. But what was very interesting is that Kakashi goes to see Ibiki, to get him involved in something. And I thought from the preview last week and the episode here, what they were going to do was that, okay, Boruto, you'll test your new ability against Ibiki in a sparring contest. Cool. But no, really shock moment here, but I thought it's actually a really good idea. They bring out Shijoji, and Ibiki is here, I suppose, as, you know, the guy in charge of him. And it's going to be a fight between Shijoji and Boruto, that this is who he's going to test his new ability out on. And this is actually perfect, because it required kind of the full team to fight Shijoji. And obviously Boruto sort of got the finishing blow in a way, but they were all involved in that fight ultimately. So this is a key test of if Boruto has grown. Can he defeat Shijoji on his own? Is this ability on its own, you know, good enough to do it? Because we saw the sort of struggles he had and like the teaser, like the karma mark stuff back when that fight was happening. Can this jutsu be the thing to take him to sort of the next level? That's what's kind of interesting here. But yeah, Shijoji, I suppose it means we're getting a full-on big fight next time. I'd be shocked if it's going to last multiple episodes, so I really think we'll probably see the result of this, because, again, this episode is called The New Rasengan. There's no way they're not going to show us the new Rasengan in the next episode, and they seem to be teasing that again. They showed some of the Winstall Rasengan setup in the preview. But let's move into the other side of the episode, which is obviously Sasuke training Sarada and Sakura watching on. So this was teased in the last episode, and I thought they were just doing the simple thing of just, you know, her showing concern, of course, but they actually created a much sort of bigger plot around this, and I thought it was quite interesting because they created, I suppose, multiple dynamics here. The first one was just Sarada bringing up the Mangekyo Sharingan and the difference between her own Sharingan and Sasuke's to him, and sort of asking, like, you know, do you think I'll get one like yours one day? And Sasuke realizes that, like, oh, I can't talk about this to her because the dark history of the Sharingan, especially the Mangekyo Sharingan, it's too much to bring that up at this point. But if Sarada is going to really advance in power, and I suppose this is where, I suppose, people watching the anime, it's more kind of manga readers will be thinking this, of like, the characters that we're dealing with right now in the manga, she's gonna need at least the Mangekyo Sharingan to be able to, like, fight against some of these characters. So it feels like she's going to have to get something like that at some point. But how? And this is the really interesting thing with her story, is, you know, she should be able to unlock the 3 Tomoe of the Sharingan without experiencing, like, devastating loss. But the Mangekyo Sharingan does require, basically, a full-on tragedy as far as we're aware. So how does that work? Because the other side of things is that even if she does awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, if she overuses it, she's going to go blind eventually, and she will require an eye transplant. But there's no one particularly close to her except Sasuke. And even then, there's a problem with Sasuke, because one of his eyes is a Rinnegan. So it feels like we're in a situation where Sarada is almost locked out of ever having the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, unless they take a different path and they reveal some completely new things about the Sharingan as we go forward, I suppose, in the anime and the manga. Because I suppose the question here is just, is this an inherently, like, cursed Kekkei Genkai, the Sharingan itself? Because it was always talked about in Naruto and in Shippuden as the curse of the Sharingan, that the family members are cursed to sort of kill each other, to, you know, keep their abilities active, and it's all about tragedy to gain strength. But is there a path to awakening it through more positive emotions? Because Sarada, the way she awakened her Sharingan in the first place, was kind of different. And I know it's sort of open to interpretation about, like, was it through excitement at meeting Sasuke again? Or was it the kind of lingering pain from having not seen him for so long that was what awakened it? And ultimately it's maybe a bit of both, but the point remains that at least some element of her initial awakening was down to positive emotions. And so I think one path to take with her overall sort of power level going forward is, what if she can awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan way down the line through positive emotions? Maybe doing it that way means you don't go blind. Maybe the curse is if you awaken it through negative emotions, then you are cursed to eventually go blind and go down that path of tragedy. But what if you make the progress without needing tragedy? And then maybe they can do it in a way where, like, this more positive Mangekyo Sharingan has different powers, and so it creates a clear distinction between Sarada's powers and Sasuke's and so on. Like, I know you can bring up, there's like the Shin, Uchiha, the clones and stuff like that, and they had the Mangekyo Sharingan, but I believe the technical way it works is that you can only get the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan if the person you take it from is like a very close family member. So I would guess that means like immediate family, or close enough. So unless those eyes are like someone relatively close in the family line, I don't think that's necessarily the case. That seems like too simple of a solution. Plus, I maybe struggle a little bit with the fact that they eventually get to a point where Sarada needs an eye transplant. So I think they will take a more positive path with her. But I really like them bringing that up. Him being very unwilling to talk about it, but him being very supportive and helping her, praising her at specific points as she's making progress. And then Sakura comes in and is just very worried that Sasuke is kind of like, okay, you got through, you got one cut to the arm, but you are making progress. And then Sakura comes in and just sees that she's bruised, that she has a cut on her shoulder. And like she says at one point in the episode, she struggles to view Sarada and not see the heavily injured Sarada after the last battle. And I really liked what they did with Sakura in this episode, because they played on these two really important ideas. The first of which obviously is that she is Sarada's mother, so of course she is concerned and she cares. But the other, and I like the way they got around to this with Hinata kind of seeing the sort of family issue that they kind of discussed, and then her bringing Ino in and them having the girls' night out to discuss this, kind of as mothers, how they feel when they send their kids off on these missions. And just addressing that, okay, like, yes, you care, we all care, of course, but we're shinobi, and especially you, Sakura, of anyone, should know about that level of dedication and devotion to training. That's what you did to chase after Naruto and Sasuke. And it was just that kind of moment of like her having, like, I suppose, just seen Sarada get very badly injured. The kind of mother side took over, and she kind of maybe lost sight a little bit of, like, she has been just like this herself in the past. This is sort of very similar to Sakura making the decision to train under Tsunade, and Sarada is making a sort of similar decision to do her big training right now. And I thought that just worked really well, because what I liked about it is that, like, it felt very Hinata to just sort of kind of quietly overhear this, but she brings Ino in to be the one to be more direct with Sarada, with Sakura. And I like that, even though this is sort of organized by Hinata, that Ino is the one who kind of speaks the most at their night out, basically. And that worked really well, but it also sort of showed that, Hinata was actually the one who was the most, like, almost like at ease with this situation. The fact that she came across Sarada, Sasuke and Sakura after she had gone to bring the lunches to Boruto and Shikadai and so on, that she is being supportive straight off the bat, that she doesn't need to go through a process like this. She gets it already. And again, that fits Hinata, who had her own kind of like level of dedication assisted by, Naruto and a lot of that early Hinata Naruto stuff that we got in like the original series. And then as it went on, she, wanting to prove herself that she can be strong and, stand beside Naruto as well. And I really like that. It just kind of like was a nice Hinata character moment, Ino character moment, and Sakura character moment, because their characters are all different and they came across in this moment of like Ino kind of admitting that she is worried about it, but she also accepts that, she's the mother of a shinobi and that she has to, do things in a certain way. And obviously this gets Sakura to the point where, like, I liked at the end, Hinata's like, I bring them lunches every day to support them. What are you going to do? And by the looks of things, Sakura is actually going to, in the next episode, take part in the sparring training, which is going to be kind of interesting. That's a good way to show support, because you can see, like, with Sarada, she wonders, like, did she say too much? Was she a little bit too mean? But no, in this case, it is more of Sakura needs to accept what Sarada is going through at this point, because she's been through it herself. So, that was really strong. Like it was probably one of Sakura's best moments in the anime and the manga combined. Really, really strong moment. But yeah, even her earlier on also showing concern about, as she goes through this training and tries to awaken the different sections of the Sharingan, she knows about the Uchiha curse and that it tends to be a tragic path. And that's where, like I said, the path of her powers is going to be just as interesting as Boruto's if they get into it in enough detail. That Boruto's got this like karma stuff, the Jogan, as well as his other jutsu and stuff like that. Mitsuki has his sage mode and like unique body. Sarada has the Sharingan, but is it going to just work the same as Sasuke? She gets the abilities in the same way? I don't think so. I think they are taking a slightly different path here, and that's going to be very interesting to see. They've teased, I think, enough with this one where, like, okay, when is Sasuke going to tell her about this? Because it feels like he also needs to tell Boruto this as well. That he needs to tell those two characters, like, about his full past. And we didn't really get into it. We thought we were going to get it when we had the Boruto Sasuke in the past arc. But again, we didn't fully get into it. We leaned on some of the stuff about the rivalry between the two of them. But again, never got into the whole idea of Sasuke becoming a rogue shinobi, being the sort of villain at one point, and how exactly the Sharingan powers work. Those are going to be big moments when they eventually kind of come out. But yeah, like I said, another very strong episode. Just a little let down by the title of the episode, leading me to believe that we would see the new Rasengan in this episode, whereas we really didn't. And I think that's the only major critique to have about this episode. But yeah, that's been the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.